So, gang, we're talking about the idea of limiting certain forms of access to certain devices by, in our converged network, defining policies that recognize certain types of devices and then, when they connect, apply certain policies to them. So, what does it take to make that happen? What are the steps you're going to go through? Pretty straightforward. First, recognize that access control lists that we're going to define, right, as we're working our way out of the network, those access control lists are just that. It's a list. You can build yourself you can write yourself down a grocery list, but you don't have any groceries unless you actually apply that grocery list. You go out and you purchase the things that are on that list. And in the same way, an access control list is simply a list of IP addresses, source, destination, protocol types, ports that we either allow or disallow, right? So it's just a list. So we'll want to build those lists to define for certain types of devices what they should or should not be able to connect to when they approach this system. So again, if I have scanning devices, they belong to, and I want to make sure that they don't access the rest of the network, or I have wireless components that are associated purely with voice traffic, and I want to make sure that they don't access anything else in the network, whatever it might be. I can create the access control list first to define what you can and can't access. Then I will create a service template. The service template basically says, here is a group of restrictions or controls that I would like to place, all right? So a template to define service functionality on the network. So in that service template, we can define what VLAN ID should be associated with the connection. We can define what access control list that we've already built I would like to apply in this service template. We can define a session timeout, a maximum amount of time that's available for this particular service template. And we can define quality of service controls for ingress and egress for this particular service template. All right, so again, first we have a list, the access control list, if we need it. Then we have the service template, which can use the access control list and define values for services. So here's a tablet device. Here's what I support. Here's a workstation device. Here's what I support. Here is a wireless, price scanner. Here's what I support for that type of device. Now I'll create a policy map. This is what really brings it together, because in here we configure, if you see this device type, apply this particular service template. And then we'll also see that there's a user role that we can create in here as well that'll indicate what sort of user-based activities are available on this network. So the policy map is really what binds it together. Even still, we're not done yet though, because we will then need to also support enabling our profiles for particular wireless LANs that then can call upon the policy map. All right, so we've got to be sure to remember to actually gather the device type information so that we can apply the device type policy that's going to control the behavior on the network. So what else do we see here? The configuration, as we take a look at it, we're in the security section of management, and in here we have what are called these method lists. We can go inside of method lists and we can manage access control lists, and we can create a standard and extended access control lists that indicate what we're going to permit and what we're going to deny, and again, control all of that behavior. So easy enough to do, method lists, access control lists, extended, standard, great. We can say who has access to what. Then we actually start applying it by looking at the service templates. So when we go into management, we are in security and we define our service templates. Again, we see we've got some built-in ones, but then we can create our own user-defined templates. So we give it a name, check. We give it a VLAN ID, okay? And remember, there may already be lots of security defined at the router level or at the firewall level that determines VLAN access. So that's good. Session timeout. We don't have to put one in here. Leave it blank if you don't want one. But if you define a session timeout, then it will expire a connection after a certain period of time. So in this case, they've gone for 1,800 seconds. So let's see, 600 seconds to 10 minutes. So that's 30 minutes. That's a 30-minute timeout. Access control list. So if you define an ACL, now you can apply it. And that will define locally here exactly what we want to control for that behavior. Then again, ingress or egress QoS policies if we want to support them. Then remember, that's just a template. So you have an ACL, it stands alone. You have a template, it stands alone. It's just sitting there. But then you want to make it effective. you actually start connecting the dots in the policy map. It maps out how to actually apply it. So we create this policy. They've labeled this one test policy. And then we've said if the device is equal to an Apple iPad, so we have a list of the various types of devices that are supported that we can connect to. We select from there. And then we can also define if the user has a particular role. So this is the if side of it. The then side is what template to apply, test template, which says, here's our QoS, here's our timeout, here's our VLAN, here's our ACLs, and then you add it, all right? Easy enough. So it's simply mapping. If these things are true, then apply this. And notice that for these, we have these two components on the if side, and that is if it's a particular device type and if it is a particular user role, but it's the device type that is mandatory in order to be able to recognize that. So these are defined per device, because that's what I can guarantee that I'm going to be able to recognize. Now, this is all great, but remember, there won't be any effective process actually going on here until we actually tie this to devices, which means we're going to have to recognize devices when they connect to our wireless LAN, which means we're going to have to ensure that we do some profiling.